Yo, what's good guys? My name is Aaron E from Agony, and today I'll be showing you how I made this loop using one shots only. So yeah, stick around to the end of this video to see my thought process as well as techniques behind making these good quality one-shot samples. For the first sound, I added a synth, sounds like this. No, nothing too crazy, just a simple repetitive pattern. If you take a look down here, I messed with the velocity as well as the panning. A quick way to do it is select Alt and Alt R. First two knobs right here. This first one being for panning and the second one for velocity. You can kind of just mess with it. I do this just to make the sample sound a lot less robotic and more interesting. For the second sound, which is just a layer, I use the key. It sounds almost like a pad. Here it is. I did add a couple of notes, which was this note, this note, this note. I also messed around with the velocity as well as the panning. For the third layer, I have this key, sounds almost like a piano. I think it's actually meant to be a piano. But anyways, yeah, same thing, simple pattern, mess around with the velocity and the EQ. Here's what all three of the layers sound. Sexy. For the next sound, I added a mallet, sounds like this. I guess you can say it's kind of like air candy or a counter melody. Then I went ahead to add another mallet, which sounds like this. Again, another simple melody. You can't really hear it in the sample, so it's almost like a texture, but if you listen for it, you will hear it. Now here's what they all sound like together. Crazy, right? Then I went ahead to add this texture. Yeah, it's really not meant to be. Yeah, I know it's really quiet. It's meant to be more in the background and not stand out too much. It adds a different feel to the sample. I think the sound is kind of cool. Kind of hear it. Sounds like, I don't even know what it's supposed to be. It sounds cool. I think you hear a door like slamming in the background. That boom sound you hear. It sounds like a machine and then a door slamming. I don't know, but it sounds cool. I added in the sample. Yeah, I did lie. I said one shots only. This is not a one shot. This is actually FL keys. I used it for the bass of the melody. I could have used a stub if I wanted to, but I just chose the piano. That's what it sounds like. Yeah, it's really just like I said, a bass playing the root note. Now, if you do send this out to producers, most of the times they'll cut off the low end, so that means this sound would not be heard at all. They're supposed to cut it off. They want to add 808s. They do that so the 808 doesn't clash with the bass of the melody. I mean, I still like to add mine in, and I also kind of prefer when other producers add it in because it kind of helps me find the root notes of the melody. So if you have just a melody, play no root notes, kind of have to have some special ears to be able to detect the root notes. If not, it's just gonna sound so out of key. That's the full sample. That's every sound. Now I'm gonna go over the mixing. So for the first sound, I took away some of the lows as well as the highs. Then I also raised the mid just a little bit. I added a chorus just to give the sound a lot more texture. I didn't really change anything here. It's the same default settings, the same default presets. All I did was change the mix level right here, so it's not too much. Then I added a gross beat and I used the basic 8 pattern, which just reverses the ending bar right here. And again, I turned the mix volume to about 65% so it doesn't stand out too much. Then I added a delay as well as a reverb to make it sound more wide. For my reverb, I always use the cathedral presets. I just take away some of the lows so it doesn't sound too muddy, and I adjust the wet knob to my liking. Last effect I added was this stereo shaper. Basically just pans the sound. This first knob, it delays the sound on the right speakers or headphones so it sounds a little bit more stereoized. So here's what the sound sounds like without effects, and here's it with effects. For the second sound, exact same thing. I added an EQ to take away some of the lows, some of the highs. I chorus for the same reason. I also turned down the mix. Then I added a gross beat, same preset, the basic 8 pattern. I turned down the mix right here as well. Then I added a delay and a reverb. I panned it to the right side instead of the left. Here's what it sounds like without effects. And here's what it sounds like with effects. Now for this sound, now for this key, I added an EQ as well, take away some of the lows and the highs, and also added a chorus to give the sound a lot more texture. I added a delay and a gross beat. For the gross beat, I did something different. I did the same basic 8 pattern, but I added a 1 beat gate. That pretty much just turns the sound on and off. So here's what it sounds like when the volume is full mix. I just turned that down just a little bit. Makes it sound a lot more bouncy and wobbly. Then I added a reverb and a stereo shaper. So here's what it sounds like without the effects. And here's what it sounds like with the effects. big difference. For the next sound, which was a mallet, I also added an EQ to take away the lows and the highs. For chorus, I also added a gross beat. For this one, I used the basic 2 pattern, and this one basically just chops it up at the end, so it kind of repeats itself. This is what it sounds like. Can I see? It goes just chops it up, you know, it's kind of cool. I also added a 1 beat gate. Then I added a delay and a reverb. Last thing I added was a patternmatic, and it just basically takes the audio from the right to the left to the right, back and forth, just like that. So this first swipe right here, adjust how far you want it to go. This right here, adjust the speed. So here's what it sound like if you just mess around with it. But you could just mess with the settings, whatever works best for the sound. Here's what it sounds like without the effects. And here's it with the effects. For the second mallet, it's more simple. I added an EQ to take away the lows, as well as some of the mid, highish. Then I added a chorus and a delay. Last thing I did was add a reverb to, of course, make it sound more wider. Here's what it sounds like without the effects. And here's it with the effects. For the piano, which was the sub, I just took away all the high end. I left some of the mids and the lows. And for the texture, it was nothing but an EQ to take away some of the lows as well as the highs. And then I added a reverb. So you maybe think we're done? No, I went over to the master channel and added a whole bunch of effects. Here's it before the effects. Let me just show what it sounds like with all the effects. You can kind of hear it's a lot more clear, and I'm about to show you how to do that. So first thing I added was a Maximus because it was kind of low, so I needed to turn up the volume a little bit. So about right there. Next thing I added was this compressor. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I don't know what any of these do. It was a preset from Producer Grind. Pretty sure who's J Beats made it. I'm about to show you what it looked like. This, so it came with an EQ, of course, the compressor, and you know, a couple of instructions. Yeah, who's your beats right here. It was actually meant for mixing your beats. What I mean, the compressor works for the melodies, so I kept it. Let me just show you what it sounds like with the compressor. Notice how it's a lot more clear than it was. And then I went ahead to add this EQ to also make it more clear. Basically, I just took down some of those mid and I raised the highs a little bit. I took this frequency down as well because it was kind of annoying. Then I added a sound gradizer. All I did was leave it at the A and took it down just a little bit, so right about there. Next thing I added was a reverb. I used the basic setting and I took the size all the way up, took away some of the lows, and I brought this dry down just a little bit. I added the stereo enhancer. It delays the audio on the right side of the headphones or speakers. Now, if you already mess around with it down here, you don't need to touch it right here because it's pretty much the same. For the arranging, I just laid it out what I felt would be best. So, of course, I tried not to make it all the same. I took some parts out, I took some parts in. We have this part where the main sound isn't playing. Then we have this part when it's just the 3 layers, texture and the bass. Then this part, I just messed around with it, see whatever. Try to make different alternatives. I rendered it out and pitched it down 1 semitone. Also, the default is usually that resample. I just stretch it before I pitch it down. So here's what it sounds like, pitch down. Alright guys, that's it for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do drop a like and subscribe because it helps us put out more content for you guys. Also, if you guys like the loop that you heard, you can subscribe to our email list. We send loops every week to people who are subscribed. You can go check the first link in our bio. Also, No Agony drops tutorials every Thursday on the tutorial channel and samples every Sunday on the sample pack channel. So be sure to tune in to get your free sauce. You know, we're not Italian, but I know we got some of the best sauce. We're talented guys. Be sure to tune in every once in a while. Come back and check in. We won't disappoint, I promise. And that's it for me. Peace.